was interesting to be a majority, but yet I wasn't a real majority. I was still a foreigner. I mean, I still felt like a foreigner. I mean, it's very strange. It just really opened my heart and my eyes to something that I felt was always there. Oh, it was just awesome. It was just awesome.
The Asian Art Museum, located in the heart of San Francisco, has called this cultural crossroads home for nearly 60 years. With more than 20,000 objects in our celebrated collection, there is art on view from Turkey to Thailand, the Himalayas to Japan, and from 6,000 years ago to today, making us the nation's largest museum devoted exclusively to the art and history of Asia and the Asian American experience. We all know Asia is constantly in the headlines, and for many of us, it's also in our heads, and in our hearts, and in our everyday lives. Because American life is so deeply interwoven with Asia, it's important to understand the story of Asians in America, our values, our identities, and our culture. It's essential to understanding life in an ever more diverse country. Through inspiring exhibitions and programs, the Asian Art Museum has been opening hearts and eyes, and to say the least, in the words of artist Bernice Bing, it's been awesome. So what happens if a story gets left out, ignored, left in the margins? It means we miss the whole picture. Starting with 2 local San Francisco stories, the Asian Art Museum is here to fill in those gaps, rewrite the narrative, and connect the past to the present. Before I was told who I was, through the practice of art, I became who I am. Born in San Francisco in 1936, Carlos Villa was a first-generation Filipino-American. A legend in artistic circles for his groundbreaking approaches and his influence on countless artists, Villa nevertheless remains little known to many fans and scholars of modern and contemporary art. He was raised in the city's Tenderloin neighborhood, just blocks from where the Asian Art Museum stands today, and trained at the famed San Francisco Art Institute and Mills College in Oakland. Troubled by a teacher's comment that there is no Filipino art history, Villa began to study non-Western art in search of his cultural roots. His pioneering work incorporates new materials, new forms, and new themes, inspired by the Third World Liberation movement of the 1960s. Using feathers and capes, bones and masks, photographs and tattoos, Villa's art explores his own immigrant roots and adapts non-Western creative traditions into a visually rich, powerful new aesthetic. Regarding his legacy, no one can speak higher of Villa than Tricia Lagasso Goldberg, who worked alongside the Asian Art Museum to bring to life Carlos Villa, Worlds in Collision, back in 2022.
In so many ways, in organizing the exhibition, Carlos Villa Worlds in Collision with the Asian Art Museum, I recognized the significance of his studio practice, which I really hadn't meditated on previous to the organizing of this exhibition. And what that means is, I recognize that Carlos gave himself permission to look at his own people, his own culture, his own family, and cultural history. He gave himself permission to use that as source material for his work, as inspiration. I had never seen another Filipino-American artist do that. So that was really groundbreaking for me. And it's so important for Filipino Americans to see their own culture, their own stories, and someone who looks like them presented at a world-class institution like the Asian Art Museum. In some ways, I learned more about his humanity and about him as an individual, and really about the person himself and who he was connected with, the kinds of the relationships that he had that he valued, both like in a community network and individually as a person, as a man, as a father, as a partner, kind of outside of his and maybe next to his role as educator and community leader.
Villa's radical influence is still felt today. As a professor at his alma mater, the San Francisco Art Institute, he influenced a generation of students seeking to forge new stories outside the mainstream. Many of the Filipino-American students he mentored continue to create vibrant artworks that reflect their own experiences and boundary-bending imaginations. Former student Michael Orcega collaborated with Paulo Asuncion to construct the playful TNT tricycle. part motorized tricycle, part karaoke machine. This eye-catching artwork is designed to be interactive and is often seen in the streets of San Francisco, bringing music and joy to all within ear's reach. The TNT tricycle is proudly infused with the unique iconography of the city's long-standing Filipino community. And there's also artist trio Eliza Oberrios, Rihanna Strada, and Jennifer K. Wolford, all former students of Villa, who worked together as a mail-order brides collective, exploring the overlapping aesthetics of hybridity, authenticity, and migration. The mail-order brides offer a memorable take on artistic exchange and cultural identity today. Another important artist, and a contemporary of Carlos Villa, is Bernice Bing, whose story, much like Villa's, is greatly under-recognized in American art history. Bing was born in San Francisco's Chinatown in 1936. Orphaned from an early age, she spent her childhood bouncing between a religious orphanage and foster homes. Nevertheless, she was buoyed by her artistic spirit and studied with important Bay Area artists at California College of Arts and Crafts, now California College of the Arts, where she was first introduced to Asian art traditions and Eastern philosophy. Not long after, Bing became enmeshed with San Francisco's Bay-era art scene, even exhibiting in a group show with Carlos Villa. Her early paintings from the 1950s and 1960s straddle abstract expressionism and figuration, giving them a palpable energy. Bing's commitment to abstraction continued to evolve, incorporating references to her Asian heritage, such as her Buddhist faith, and her work from the 1980s and 1990s explores a synthesis of Zen calligraphy and Western modernism, expressing her deeply original vision. The Asian Art Museum is now the largest repository for Bing's art, meaning audiences can trace the evolution of her style across decades, while also connecting it with the historic works on display throughout the museum. To honor Bing's legacy, the Asian Art Museum opened Bernice Bing Open Call earlier in 2023, which explores the Asian and Asian American influences in contemporary art. This exhibition is the first ever open call in the museum's history and highlights work from 25 artists. And in keeping in Bing's spirit, Into View New Voices, New Stories is set to open on January 19th, 2024. This will be an original exhibition, showcasing work of both local and international contemporary artists that disrupt the narrative and speak to a radically imagined future. As a woman, an Asian American, and a lesbian, Bing worked outside the mainstream to create the inclusive environment and support network she had lacked in her career, when she was often overlooked by galleries, museums, and the art press. Regardless, her legacy extends beyond the canvas to show us the transformative power of art making as community building, a legacy critics today increasingly recognize the power of. And if you ask Abby Chen, who's the head of contemporary art at the Asian Art Museum, she wants nothing more than Bing to be remembered for her unapologetic legacy.
Bernice Bing was born and raised in the Bay Area, although she had a really tough life. But I think also that tough environment demonstrated how art is such an important vehicle for her to express herself and also help her to be understood. And more importantly, I think the San Francisco Bay Area has this large Asian American community and a community of color. And she really found her roots here within that community. That kind of a nurture ground helped her to continue to think about how that she can nurture others and create an ecosystem. You see both disruption and convergence in her work. And I think this is one of the reasons she's not accepted, because people do not understand, and she was so ahead of her time. But then on the other hand, I think for me as a curator to learn that we actually have this form of expression from an Asian American artist that does make the art history much richer, and it offers so much more imagination and possibilities even decades later. So I feel like that part is a huge contribution that Bernice Bing has made, that I just previously only known that she was this very nurturing person, a great abstract painter. I didn't really know the depths of her work and how that she was thinking about the society holistically, but then stay very true to herself. And I think that continued to illuminate for someone like me in this generation that never met her. And I hope that will do the same for future generations and other people as well.
The Asian Art Museum has always been at the forefront of telling a broader, richer, and more inclusive story, not only of Asia, but of the diverse America we live in. And we believe art tells the most important stories, stories that enhance our connection to a constantly changing world. By showcasing the experiences of Asian American artists, especially those overlooked and under-recognized in their lifetime, like Carlos Villa and Bernice Bing, it shows how museums like ours can evolve into a place where everyone can gather to rediscover the past, appreciate the present, and imagine the future.